Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Adobe Live here on a Wednesday in the UK. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, that's just fine. Go ahead, watch on YouTube, but you won't be able to get involved in the chat. So get yourself across to behance.net/Adobe Live and join us there, where you can ask questions of myself, join in with the community, and more importantly, speak to our amazing guest, who is today the fab Mikey Dowdle. How are you doing, Mike?
Hey, doing well, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. And I called you Mike then. I hope you don't mind. I didn't add in the E on the end there, but
No,
there we go.
Yeah,
absolutely. Sorry, Mikey, but no, great to see you here. I'm going to talk to the people in the chat in just a moment, but before we do that, just in a couple of sentences, who are you? What do you do? And what will you be showing us today?
So yeah, I'm Mikey.
Yep.
I'm a 3D artist, animator and designer. And today I'm going to be talking about how I generally go about combining 3D environments, 3D objects with 2D animation, which is something I've done a few times. I quite enjoy doing, and it's thought it'd be good to show how I do it.
Fantastic. I think everybody's going to love that. Well, we have a fantastic community here, Mikey. Many who have been with us right since day one here on Adobe Live in the UK. And I'm just going to give a shout out to some of those people, because we really do get people who turn up for each and every one, which is amazing. So morning, Kirsty, and guten Tag, Sean. And I think I saw Stuart in there as well, I think, just a moment ago. Hi, Linda. Hi, Depot. Hi. I did see Stuart in there. There we go. Fantastic. And Gareth Hanks, one of our regular audience members, will be so excited that the mere whiff of After Effects, and he's straight in on that. So he'll be very, very happy indeed that there's some of that. Hi, Sandrine. And Frank is here also. Angus, hi. Oh, brilliant. So many people. Really good already. Plenty going on in the chat, Mikey. So I think you've got a couple of things pre-prepared for us, right, to introduce your work to us. Is that about right?
Yeah, that is right. So
let's go do that then.
Yeah, I mean, introductions is kind of done, but I guess just to go a bit more into depth. Yeah, 3D artist and animator, but I do a bit of everything. I love motion graphics, graphic design, and a bit of 2D animation. So kind of all combines in. And I'm a freelance. I'm freelance right now as of 3 months ago, and before then I've spent 5 years at Art and Graft in London, and been a few places before then. So just for a bit of background of me.
Yeah.
But I think it's best to show probably what I do through a showreel.
Yeah.
So I think I'll just go ahead and show that. And this is a premiere of the showreel, so no one has seen this yet.
Oh, fair.
So hopefully it's okay. Oops. So can you see that okay?
Yeah, we can see that real good. That's fab. Thanks for maximizing as well. Brilliant.
Okay. I'll just let this play, and then
yeah, let's go.
Talk again.
There's a lot of joy in there. I love it.
Yeah, a lot going on.
Yeah.
And a couple of little bits that, yeah, I hope that I can kind of break down a tiny bit today and reveal how I've kind of went about it.
Yeah.
No,
that's cool. So that's going down well in the chat already. You've got wow, love those squirrels. Perfect
awesome.
sign. So yeah, and a couple of Gareth Hanks is asking, he's assuming it's Cinema 4D, but there is a bit of Cinema 4D in there, right? And Blender, I think you use as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm mostly a Cinema 4D user, so pretty much 99.9% of the 3D in there is Cinema 4D. But yeah, I've recently started using Blender, and some of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is going to be mostly focusing on my Cinema 4D kind of pipeline with that. But as far as I'm aware, everything can be done in Blender, and I kind of will show for the Blender people what you might do, but very briefly. But just it's hopefully everything I'm going to show is quite agnostic to the 3D software. It's more just then the After Effects side of things. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, let's get into it then. I'm eager to see this, see how this plays out. Cool.
Nice. Yeah, so I thought I'd kind of clear up a bit about what I'm talking about, go in a bit more depth. So yeah, something I really love doing, and I tried to experiment with it a couple of years ago, and then since then I've just wanted to do a bit more and more. But it's like combining the 3D and 2D, because I love doing both. Generally more of a 3D person, but anytime I can kind of, mix media a bit and, make things a bit different. It's always good. So I wanted to show a couple of ways that I do that. I think there's probably more ways than I'm going to talk about today, and there's always many different ways to do things, but I'm going to talk about what I'd say is two distinct methods. So one of them is if you have footage or 3D render and you want to animate on top of that. And then a second, which is slightly more advanced, and probably what I use more often, is having your 3D scene, but then using 3D data from that scene that After Effects can also read, and then using that to kind of, it's a bit of a different workflow. It has its different advantages. So I'll kind of show that and show where I've used it, and all the fun stuff, nerdy stuff.
Cool. And the great thing, of course, is for people who have After Effects is that Cinema 4D Lite comes installed already. So they'll have access to that as well, which is great.
Yeah, that's right. So hopefully everything that I go over can be done in Cinema 4D Lite. Like I said, Blender you should be able to do all this as well. It's all open.
Perfect.
Perfect. So one little animation I wanted to just show in full. This is something I worked on a couple of years ago for the Art and Graft Instagram page. It was hitting 25,000 followers, so I thought it'd be nice to make an animation for that. And this was one of the projects where I really wanted to, experiment with that 2D, 3D thing. So I wanted to create some nice 3D environments and have a 2D character, but almost make it like really obvious that these are two. I wasn't trying to do too much trickery of like make the 2D look too 3D or anything like that. So I'll play this out, and then I'll kind of talk about it a bit more.
Okay, cool. That's lovely.
Thank you. So yeah, this animation uses kind of the first method that I was talking about. This is quite a bit more of a traditional approach, I'd say, and drawing on top of the 3D. And when I was making this, we had a great illustrator animator, if I put down here. So check out their work and look them up online, because yeah, their character work's really great. But they were interning for us at the time, so I was starting this project, and they did all the final 2D work on it, which was just came out so nice, so great. So I wanted to give them a shout out on that. And then I will quickly show one other animation that uses more of the second method, and then I'll kind of break down the two a bit further.
Cool. Yeah.
Which is another project for Art and Craft, and another load of amazing 2D animators worked on this as well. So yeah, check out all their work, find their Instagrams and stuff, because they're all amazing. But yeah, I'll quickly play that, and then
Emily just got married.
Go into it a bit more.
Emily just got married. Congrats, by the way. And she's applying for life insurance online right now from her couch with Haven Life. Let's watch. Looks like Emily can buy a Haven term policy for just $17.50 per month. That's around 30% less than the industry average. And now Emily can love her new life insurance just as much as her new life. This calls for 2 celebrations. Celebrate twice with Haven Life.
There you go, and that's your one.
Nice.
So yeah, quite similar in terms of the 3D 2D mix, but both using different techniques and both valid in their own ways. So we just jump back in here quickly. So yeah, the first animation, the 25K one, was what I'll just say is animating over footage. It's fairly simple and, like I said, like traditional in a way. It's almost how they would have made the old visual effects in maybe like the 70s, 80s movies, where they just draw. I think even the lightsabers, they literally just drew over the footage, and yeah, certain visual effects you can see it's hand drawn, hand animated, just frame by frame. Yeah, over the footage. And the first animation was done in a similar way. I created the 3D and then handed that over to Sam, and essentially that's what they did. Drew over frame by frame quite painstakingly, but I think it came out great. And yeah, the certain advantages and disadvantages that I'll go over in a second. And then the second animation was using 3D layers in After Effects, as well as a combination of other things. So the characters themselves were animated in Animate, but there was like a bit of a flow of Cinema 4D for the 3D, that some of the renders and some of the data was in After Effects, and then animation from Animate was taken to After Effects and then connected with 3D data, so it all lined up.
Nice. I can tell you from experience as well, because you might have guessed I'm over 21. Back in the 80s, frame by frame across video was a lot harder than it is now.
Yeah.
A lot more time consuming, many late nights. But
yeah. Hopefully I'll show in a second as well. It is so simple to set up now. The first method, which is actually one of the advantages that I haven't maybe put here, but it is quite easy to set up, and quite good. So what I think with these two methods, it's good to think about the project before you start the animation, what you kind of want out of it, and maybe what certain parameters of the animation will be. Sometimes you might use both methods, but yeah, they both have advantages and disadvantages. So
Sure.
animating over the footage, the first example, I think is great for if you have like the sweeping camera moves, and by that I mean if you had a camera flying over mountains or something, like it's turning, it's moving a lot, you've got this like crazy footage, or if it was flying through, you know, a crowd of people, and you need to animate certain people, and with the second point, something more dynamic as well. It can be easier and make more sense to use this method, I think, than the second one. And it's
very popular right now. Drawn on animation is really, really popular right now. You see it in so many places. Well, I mean, I'm sure you see plenty of it, but
definitely,
there's lots of it in media at the moment. Lots.
And you can use it in so many different ways. You can use it like the way the first animation was with the characters in 3D, but then it's used so much with visual effects. Even now, just like I think I saw the new show on Netflix, Arcane, and there's a lot of 2D explosions and things on top of the 3D, and I believe that's a similar method to this. They've done all the 3D, and then the 2D is kind of animated on top afterwards. So yeah, this method, because it is more frame by frame, it's great for if you want something a bit looser, a bit sketchier, like stylistic wise. And I'm gonna be showing a bit of Adobe Animate, but you can do all of this in Photoshop as well. And I just love the idea that you could then use a watercolor brush and do everything, but you know, with a watercolor effect and all that kind of thing. All the amazing brushes that you can use there. And also I find it's good to, just for blocking out animation, even if it's something you are going to animate in After Effects, sometimes just having that looseness, you can animate, you know, a bit sketchier, a bit rougher, and then you can really plan out what you're going to do and then clean it up in After Effects. But the things I've put to consider is, I found with the first project, I had to have a lot of the 3D animation done beforehand before I could give it to the 2D animator. It didn't need to be final, and there was still like, we had a bit of a back and forth, and you know, they could animate a bit rough, and then we could look at it and change a few things, but it did have to be quite in a good place, because obviously 2D animation, especially hand drawn frame by frame, is slow and it's a bit difficult. So you don't want to be, you know, changing too much and be like, oh, that doesn't work, I'm going to completely change this shot, and then they have to animate again. So it's like, you know, being considerate, I guess, of that kind of thing. Whereas the second method, there's a bit more leeway, I'd say, of changing things, so I find second method, it can be great for that more clean look, because you're not doing frame by frame. You definitely can do a bit more of that clean graphical style frame by frame, but this really suits to it. Actually, I might even be able to show quickly, if you look at these, the two animations, like the style of these characters is super clean, whereas this guy, he's got certain subtleties with his movement. Just turn that down. Like when you look at certain bits, like his hand on the desk, it's like got a bit of a jittery movement to it, which is something you get with the frame by frame animation. which
but sometimes that's the charm of it, though, right?
Exactly, yeah.
It's it's so lovely. Yeah,
it can look really nice. So it's just those things to consider. And like I said, with the second method, it does sometimes require a bit of planning. So both of these methods and how I'm going to go through them is considering quite a lot of working with a team or working with a client or something. So you want to be able to like make certain changes that the client may have, or give enough for whoever you're working with. So like when I've worked on the second animation, the Amazon Haven one, there was a lot of planning with the animatic, where all like the 3D data was more or less set up for the animatic. So then when it came to me working on more of the 3D and the 2D animators working on the 2D, there was a lot already in place because of that, like pre-planning and knowing this is how we're going to do it. And then it was a bit more just like people could focus on the things that they were doing, like the animation.
Grand.
So I think it might be good if I just jump into an example to show what I'm rambling on about.
You're not rambling, it's great. It's good stuff.
So I open up Animate, and I'll quickly I put together a couple of examples just for this talk. So they might be quite simplified and not perfect, but hopefully it will be a bit cleaner to show certain things. So I put together this quite simple animation of a car, and super quick, just drifting around a corner.
Yep.
And this is an example which I thought fits like the consideration that I had, where it's slightly more dynamic. It's a 3D car, it's coming towards you, it's turning 180 degrees. So it's quite dynamic in terms of the movement. So looking at this kind of the way it moves and the animation, everything, this really fits with the first method in my mind, because the 3D data of this and like tracking it 3D data of this, it would work, but it would like get a bit complex.
Yeah.
So I can show quickly a bit of animation. So that like this is a little just example of the animation I did there.
Yep.
So to quickly show how I set that up is I animated this 3D car in Cinema 4D and exported PNGs. Is that not letting me click? Oh yeah, here we go. Exported the PNGs from Cinema 4D that
as a
I
sequence,
then, imported in. Yeah. So if I just maybe 1280. So if you file import to stage, you can see the just the simple PNG sequence that I exported from Cinema 4D.
Yeah.
Yes, I want it as part of the sequence. and that just brings it straight into Animate. So now it's just ready to animate on top of. And the way what I usually do is set this up as a guide layer, because I don't want this to export with the animation from Animate. It's just to for a reference, really.
Yeah.
So for the smoke, for example, it was just then creating a new layer, creating some frames to draw in, and going over and laying out your smoke and animating that frame by frame. It's always good to have a bit of onion skin on as well, but that was like generally the method for this. And I use smoke as just an example, but if you imagine, like, it could, if it was something a bit more complex, like a hand, like imagine it could be a child playing with a toy.
Yeah.
If you imagine this, the car coming in, and then it turns, and then does the 180 kind of turn, you'd have to animate the hand sort of animating around that. So I find that's something, it's quite a complex move, and then to do that within After Effects it can be done, but you then have to start thinking in 3D, but using shape layers, and it gets a bit crazy.
Yeah.
So
I think Animate's very, very friendly for this kind of. I love the drawing engine in Animate.
Yeah,
it's always been, to do some of the things you're doing there, like creating the smoke and onion, skinning that stuff away and doing it frame by frame would be a real headache.
Yeah.
In After Effects, Animate just makes that very easy.
Yeah, there's certain ways you could do this sort of thing with After Effects, but then there's, like, you could use particle emitters or something on this, and then have that attached to the exhaust. But then there's certain things, just like the particles splitting up and getting smaller, and also that charm we were saying about the hand-drawn animation, it starts becoming a bit more cumbersome to try and recreate that when you can just do it in Animate. So then I'll quickly, I think I have a project I can show that together. This one. Yeah, so I work with a very small window for some reason. So I just will export from Animate. Actually, I can quickly show that's just why is it keep doing this? Export.
Export.
Export movie, and then I generally like working with SWF because that retains the vector format in After Effects. I think it can render a bit slower, but it's great because you can scale it. It won't. I'll go a bit crazy just to quickly show. You can scale it, and how general images work is if you scale, you get the blurry images, but if you rasterize, it then smooths it all out, and it's just really versatile. So you can do this method in Photoshop, but you can't scale it after the fact, which is another reason why I like the second method as well. Because although you can scale this, in a scenario where maybe the client comes back and says, can the car be a bit quicker? Can it do, rather than one turn, can it do a bit of a wiggle turn? All these things, you kind of have to start the animation again. But with using the 3D data from After Effects, there's certain scenarios where you can get away with keeping the animation that you've done and just updating the data. which is super helpful.
Yeah.
So I think I can just jump straight into the second method now. I mean, unless there's any questions about this. Hopefully
no, people just taking it in. There's a bit of a discussion going on about Windows at the moment. We're not too worried about that. So no, everybody's taking it in. Interested to see the different elements that you're using and different apps that you're using and how you're doing it. So cool. No, it's all good.
Yeah, hopefully I'm trying to start a bit simple and it will ramp up.
Yeah, no, that's good. Everybody likes that. When you mentioned that a few minutes ago and said, starting out simple, that went down very well. So you're all good.
Cool. Just double check I haven't skipped over anything. Yeah, I'll now dive into the basics of how I move data from 3D into After Effects, which it's for me, it's just infinitely useful. And I will start with there's one way of doing it, which is the simple way, which now I never use because it has a lot of hiccups for me, but it can work for quite simple scenes. I guess I'll quickly mention, like you said, with After Effects, everyone has Cinema 4D Lite. So for people that don't know, you can just go File, New, Cinema 4D file.
Yeah. And that's the only condition, right? Is that After Effects needs to be running while that's on. It won't run independently. You can't launch it outside of After Effects. It's part of the deal with Maxon. Has to be running while After Effects is running.
So yeah, I think this is the way to get it going. New Cinema 4D file, and can experiment away. I think it's got a few less features and things going on, but for certain things, I mean, it does a lot still. Yeah. So I'll quickly show the basic method of getting the 3D data in. So if I just do something super simple, let's do I guess I could start with a cube. If I just put a cube in the scene and so just saving a Cinema 4D scene, you can bring it into After Effects. And it comes in and you can bring that into a composition, and then you've got the Cineware. And you can kind of see the scene that we just created with the cube. Very beautiful, complex scene. And you have this scene data. So if you extract that, it will give you the scene data that you've got within that scene. So right now, there is only just the camera. It's not really helpful at all on its own. But you can start, if I create a null. I'll just move that to the front of the cube. So to tell After Effects that this is something that you want as 3D data, as a 3D null, you have to tell it which objects you want. So if you right click and render, you've got this external compositing tag, and After Effects is our external compositor. So we want to add that. There's certain settings, we can just leave it default for now, but if you click solid, it will bring it in as a visible plane. If you leave it, it will just be a null within After Effects as well. So if I save that, and
just to just for the people who aren't After Effects savvy just yet, a null is something that has position properties and animatable properties in After Effects, but it has no visual appearance at all. You sometimes use it for things to track against. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why you might use a null. So,
yeah,
cool.
And it's great for stuff like this where you need position data. Sometimes, like with like 3D programs like this, it can literally just be for organization, like using it as a folder, which I do a lot. Actually, I've done it in one of the other scenes that I can show as well. But yeah, it won't render visually. It's just it's a nothing object.
Yeah.
Not trying to be too mean to it, but so yeah, I've deleted that data I extracted before, reloaded this Cinema 4D scene and hit extract again, and now that null pops up. It's on the front face of this cube, just like it is in Cinema 4D. So that's the kind of the basics of getting these programs to speak to each other, really.
Yeah.
So you can then start doing more complex things. So if I, for example, just animate this camera and just move it down and set those keyframes, and I'll save that again. I'll just delete that data I extracted, reload that, and extract again.
Yeah. There you
see, we got a bit of movement going on.
Yeah.
And if I turn off that and show the null, you can see it's moving in space. The camera has keyframes now. So you could start, from that really, you can start adding, or going crazy with the 2D. So just as a super quick example, if I create a new composition and make a little face. Let's fill, move the stroke.
What from my own work, Mikey, what I really love is that since Maxon acquired Red Giant, so I used to use a lot of Red Giant effects, and now that they've been acquired by Maxon, which is a good year or so, I think now, you can get all of the full Cinema 4D and all of the Red Giant stuff for one annual subscription, which is epic.
Yeah, and so
do you use any of that stuff? Do you use any Red Giant stuff? Or?
I used to a lot in the past. I haven't delved into it since the kind of the acquisition, because just haven't had time. I'm not even sure I've got the most up-to-date software to take advantage of it. But yeah, I've seen there's so much you can do now. It's just crazy. Like a lot of the Red Giant things that you had to do in post, you can now do like within your render, and I think it can just save a lot of time there.
Yeah, so good.
So yeah, let's just don't need to do that now. So yeah, super basic, maybe somewhat scary, somewhat cute face. I don't know.
Yeah,
you decide.
It's very good.
Let's call that face. What scene were we in? Oh, set up yet. So if you bring that comp that we just created into here, you can now, as you can see from the null, it's a 3D layer. You can turn that face into a 3D layer, and it's shot all the way over here. And you can tell After Effects, I want this face layer to be the child of this null layer.
Yeah.
Which is the null in the middle here. And nothing visually has changed, but now they are connected. If I undo that, you might be able to see you've got coordinates and position data from this face comp.
Yeah.
And if you make it a child here, they change slightly.
Yeah.
So now these position parameters are in relation to this null rather than just general world space.
Yeah.
So if I zero those out, so zeroing out is just saying I want them to be no different to the null position.
Yep.
And then I can scale it down, and you can see that the face is kind of anchored itself to this part of the null.
Yep.
Then you can just start moving it around into position wherever you want it to go. And in theory,
can you use the 3D widget as well for that if you want to reposition it more?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, all works. Yeah, cool.
I mean, I like using the numbers just because it's more precise for me. Sometimes you can accidentally move the wrong axis and not realize. I mean, in this one, it's quite simple, so you can kind of see what you're doing, but certain more complicated scenes, you might think you're moving it to the left and you're actually just moving it backwards or forwards in space, and then when you play, it's all over the place. Yeah, you can see now it's the box has a face.
Nice.
And it's all attached.
Yep.
So yeah, that's kind of like the basics of bringing in that data. And I shall quickly.
And the huge advantage there, right, is that if you needed to, for whatever reason, update the face, for example, you'd only need to update that composition rather than going through a whole render process again if it was on as a texture from Cinema 4D.
Exactly, yeah. So yeah, there's a number of advantages. Just like you said, you wouldn't have to render that cube. Imagine if this cube was just this crazy detailed scene. It was a million cubes all around it in like this amazingly lit environment that takes half an hour a frame to render, and you want this character to blink, or and you haven't animated that, and think like, oh, now I need to re-render that whole scene just for some blinking eyes. Which with this, this layer here could be your finished render scene, and now all you're doing is working on the face, and it's quite nice and light, and you can go in and change this face however you want. Can make the eyes further apart, and it will just update, and nice and simple. And then going back to the first method, if we'd taken this cube and said we want to animate a face on this surface, frame by frame, like I said before, if you then want to change that in some way, maybe you want to make that camera move a bit quicker, doing that frame by frame, it becomes a big pain. Whereas with this method, and maybe I can just show that quickly, if I speed up that camera move, do it even more. Yeah, if I just speed up that camera move, in theory I should be able to just save that scene, reload it. I'll just mark these as the old. Now this is the data itself that you've extracted won't update, so this is now the old data. But if I extract this new data, which is this down here, so you can see the animation is updated, but it's still parented to the old data null here. So I can say I don't want it to be attached to the old one, I want it to be attached to the new one. I can delete that old one now, and it's all sticking to the box.
Nice.
So I guess you just imagine someone wanted you to make that change and you'd animated it frame by frame, you just kind of have to say, I can't do it. No.
Or cry a lot.
Yeah, definitely cry a lot. Oh yeah, quickly I'll just mention the Blender method for this, and it's something I haven't personally messed around with, but it looks pretty amazing. You've got this plugin called Blender AE, and it does it does the same thing, I believe. So you have your 3D Blender scene, and this plugin, I think you attach, load into Blender, and then you you'd select if this was your Blender scene and this was a null you wanted to extract. You have a button that says send to After Effects, and it will send the null and the 3D data or whatever you're trying to send. And it will just open up in After Effects, and then the process is the same. You just will have this null, or I think it's called an empty in Blender, but you'll have the null, and you can attach your character to it or whatever you need to, and then.
In fact, David in the chat was remarking on the term empties just a little while ago, actually. Just saying it, yeah, cool.
It's probably a more honest name for it, empty.
Well, I mean, null's more precise, but you know, hey ho.
Mathematically. Let's cancel Windows Mac war. Let's start null empty war, which is better. Okay, yeah, so then I can show, so this is the very simple method, but this is a method that I don't use that much. I didn't use for the example I showed, this Haven Life animation. It's the premise is the same, and it's using the external compositing tags, but it's not importing the file directly into into our After Effects. The reason being is you can have a few hiccups with this method. I can demonstrate that now quickly if I open this file. So this is another like demo scene that I put together just to show this. It's done the same way. Certain. Actually, let me open it up here, and I can probably talk through it. Yeah. So this is the scene in Cinema 4D. I've got the car, and like I said, I'm using a whole load of these nulls just for organization, and it's like using them as folders. But some of them have these external compositing tags. So there's one for where I'd want to put a character, and there's one for where the exhaust pipe is. So if I, and actually also it's animated a little bit, it's got a little bit of a bob. If I do the same thing as I did before and extract the data, it's brought in the null. Open up the keyframes. It's brought in the null. You might be able to see it. It's connected to the car, and then suddenly the car's moving up and down, but the null isn't. Is this? Oh yeah, so you see it's moving up and down, and then suddenly these keyframes stop, but the animation continues. And this is a problem. I'm not sure. I think it's just a limitation of this method. And this isn't the only like hiccup it can have. Sometimes you have nulls within nulls and cameras being driven by certain different ways, and you'll find you'll bring in the file and it just something won't match up, or some things will go off. And I think it's just because there's a certain way that Cinema 4D uses data. And if I show, for example, the way I animated this car, I've animated a squash and stretch on the wheels, and then the car is just moving up and down. And all it is 3 keyframes for each. and then I've selected, say, the squash and stretch. You've got this function that you can functions track after, and you can tell it what to do when it hits that last keyframe. So you could say continue this keyframe, but then what I selected was repeat, so it's just going back and repeating that all through the timeline, but After Effects doesn't know that I've done that.
Yeah.
So then the system breaks. So within Cinema 4D, and again, this is probably I think what the Blender AE does as well, is you've got in the render settings, you've got this compositing project file, and After Effects is in the drop down there.
Yeah.
So you can save out a file that this will also bring in your cameras and your nulls that you set up with your external compositing tag. So if you've added that tag, it will save out the project, and then After Effects will know.
Okay, and that might resolve something that Gareth is asking about in the chat. He's saying, doesn't Mikey find that the EC tags are out in reference to AE when imported? Cinema using 000 as a default, and AE using 00. So the center of frame, 000 of course being the center of frame.
Yeah, I think that is an issue. I think you'll find, like, with that this face here.
Yep.
Does
that explain the leap across when it's first parented?
I think it is just where where they read the data. So
okay.
Yeah, like they're saying, the default for After Effects, I think, is 00 starts in the corner, whereas Cinema 4D and a lot 3D, it starts in the middle. So you do have to compensate for that. I think there may be other workarounds for that, and you do have you can change anchor points here, which I think this can sometimes fix that as well. So there should be ways around it. But yeah, so if you save out that project file, you get where are we? After Effects. You get a thing called an AEC file, which you import. It will create a folder of your scene, and you'll get a composition. If you've rendered out some frames, it will put the frames in that composition as well.
Right. Okay.
It will just come up as a missing footage, but and then it will bring in your cameras and your nulls.
Yeah.
And I think another thing that with the that example from before, it didn't have the exhaust either. That was missing from the data, but with the AEC file, I think it's because sometimes if you put the compositing tag on something that isn't a null, it might get confused. But this method, it's recognized the exhaust as well, so that's another bonus that you've got everything you need. And you can see it's all attached throughout the whole animation. There's no stops or anything going wrong, which is very handy. And I do need to, because there's this one thing that gets everybody, and I need to save some people. Within your Cinema 4D, I believe, within your Cinema 4D, there's this Exchange plugins, and After Effects and Importer. And let's go for CC, After Effects CC. There's this plugin that you put in your After Effects plugins folder. So you just go into the Cinema 4D program files, copy this over into your After Effects plugins, because the AEC file, sometimes if you go into your browser and you're looking for this AEC file that comes with your renders, sometimes you just can't import it, and that will be the reason why you need that plugin, which it's free and comes with Cinema 4D, but it's quite hidden. And
as we saw, fantastic. Good tip.
I don't even know how I know about that. So maybe it came to me in a dream once, but it's buried in there. So then now everything kind of works exactly as you expect it to, and I've just done the same things as before. So now I've got the exhaust, I can create some smoke. I think this is a good example of what I was saying with the frame by frame method. There's certain things that you can do and experiment with, and that like hand drawn style, and you can like break up bits of smoke. Whereas After Effects is great for a bit more of a graphical like clean style, which kind of you can see here versus like the way this smoke breaks up. It's quite different, but yeah, I've created the composition the same as I did the box face, parented that to the exhaust, kind of positioned it where it needs to be, and now it kind of bobs up and down with the car. And we've got a character, again, done exactly the same way as the face, just creating some simple shapes. Wrong one. Parenting it to the character null, and now it bobs up and down in the car as well.
Nice.
So that's kind of, in essence, that's the way I kind of set up things for those projects. And this could be, for example, if I was starting the project and wanted to just, maybe I knew this character I wanted to be animated frame by frame. Like maybe I wanted him to turn his head and do certain movements that maybe would be more difficult in After Effects, and I just wanted to do it in Animate or even Photoshop frame by frame. I'd still probably set it up this way. So I just have a proxy for the character, or even better if there's a character design that's already there, and have that in place of this as just a still. Then you know the kind of placements, and you can set that up, and you can render things quickly, and you know. And
of course, somebody else can be working on that while you're working on other aspects of the animation. You know, that's the essence of teamwork, isn't it? You put a proxy in place so you get on with what you need to do. We've got just a few seconds, over half an hour left, Mikey. So just for the chat, if you've got questions for Mikey, now's your time to chip them into the chat, so I can ask them and interrupt Mikey plenty more for the next half an hour. Absolutely. Actually, who was that? Umacorn was asking in the chat just where that plugin was. Again, would you mind just showing that again quickly? Of course, it'll be slightly different location on the Mac as it will be to Windows, but
yeah, I'm not sure exactly where it is on the Mac, but I just went into the program files, and then whichever Cinema 4D version you have, and it's just a folder called Exchange plugins.
Right. Okay. Cool.
So you can just dig in there. After Effects, that's what you need. Yeah. And it's the importer.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Great stuff.
And that is just you. If you go into your Adobe After Effects support files, plugins. C4D importer. That's where I've put it. And
make it easier for After Effects to find.
so that just allows you to, just get as much as you need from the 3D into After Effects. It can read everything. I think how it works is, I think the first way of just importing the Cinema 4D file, maybe it kind of just looks at what you've done, brings it in. I think the way the AEC works, I could be slightly wrong about it, but I think it bakes the animation that you've done into individual keyframes.
Okay.
So, like you can see, in 3D, I didn't animate this null going up and down. I didn't animate the position, the rotation, but it's given all these keyframes. I think it's just so it gives you the most accurate data you can get.
Yep. No, that's cool. Thank you. Gareth is also asking, where did you study? Did you?
I studied in the University of Creative Arts, which is South Londonish.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Quite a few years ago now. I did a course called Graphic Design New Media. So I chose that course because it was quite diverse. You could do a lot of different things. If you wanted to do a bit of graphic design, you could. If you wanted to do a bit of 3D animation, you could. It's quite open, and that was kind of my thing. I just wanted to do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But a lot of the, especially like Cinema 4D, 3D stuff, I learned after university. There's just like, so many good tutorials and things on the internet that just it's mostly just like messing around. I found that got me to learn this stuff. Creating your own projects and trying to figure things out is the best way to learn.
Yeah, learning based on need. That's the thing. You're more likely to learn if you've got a particular goal in mind.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah. No, excellent.
Which is a great example of that first project. One of the goals for that 25K one was like, what is a good way of combining the 2D 3D animation. I kind of got the ball rolling a bit on that, and since then I've learned a couple of different methods, and the when to use them, when to not to use them. Like I said, this could be like the beginning, the animatic that you send to the client or whoever, and better yet, this is a final character design rather than shape layers. But if it just needs to be something to show the basics of what you're going for, this is great. And again, the client may say, can the camera be more zoomed in, or can the bobbing up and down be faster or more dramatic? And you can make those changes, update the nulls, and you're good to go. And then I've done one other little example, because like I said, this second animation was the character animation was done in Animate. So the way we did it is kind of had this set up. I think we did have a character design in place, just a sketch of the pose in place, and then the 2D animators knew the base to go from, to then send to me for After Effects to then combine them together. So it would be just like I could send this as a base into Animate, and then if I open that up.
Do you ever use shape tweens in Animate? Ever use those?
I don't tend to, but no. I don't know much about them. I mostly use Animate for the frame by frame. Like it's good just doing like chicken scratch sketches and then cleaning that up, that kind of thing. So if we wanted to take that character into a bit further, if let's turn all these, let's hide all those. So say, for example, this was our character design, rather than those shape layers. We've now got the base set up. We've got all the layers linked together. So we can take this character design and then start sketching out some animation. So yeah, this is something I did just to show that, for example. I separated the certain elements out into different colors and different layers, which is just, it's good for cleanup.
Yep.
And having certain things not fighting with each other, and you can like clean up the arm and then clean up the head separately and kind of iterate on that.
I work that way myself, so exactly the same color arrangement. So yeah.
Oh, nice. So I just sketched, use that as a base to create some sketchy lines, and then it is just creating some different poses. And I added just a fill, just so when you import from Animate to After Effects, the SWF retains transparency. So this would just import as these lines, and everything out underneath would be transparent. So it's good just to do that as a fill, and then exported it the same as before. Export movie, exported that as a SWF file, and then you can replace your kind of proxy thing for your
new animation.
Your new animation. And this actually something you can also do is within the, if you interpret footage, you can add some loops as well. So if you wanted it to go on for longer, it would you could just automatically loop
out. Yeah,
without any coding, and it would just keep going. And so this method, and again, like we're saying, like working with a team, you can like keep updating and make sure things look good, not go too far ahead and break things, but just like have your rough animation for Animate, send that over at the same time. I could be working on the 3D, trying to texture the 3D. So you've got these two elements working at the side by side. You can like bring it into After Effects for them to meet and update it as you're going. And you still have that flexibility of, even at this stage, if that comment of we want the camera to be slightly closer in, you can do that without it breaking. And you've got the vector, you can turn on the vector for the animation, so you can scale that up and you won't lose anything there.
Yeah. Man, I love a bit of whimsy, me. It's so good.
Like that.
It's a great use of squash and stretch on those simplistic wheels, because that works really, really well, right? It really does convey the idea of fast motion so simply. It's beautiful. Love it.
Yeah, this whole thing is like, the 3D is 6 keyframes in total, I think, and then you've got the animation from the character. But it is super. It's super like flexible, and it's great. So that's generally, actually another. This is basically exactly how one of these shots in the showreel was put together. I'd probably skip past it.
We could probably watch that again, if you do get a minute, Rick, because it's so good, that reel. And plus, it was a premiere here on on Adobe Live. So, you know.
Yeah, do you want me to play it now?
Yeah, well, it's entirely up to you, man. But yeah, lovely. I wouldn't mind. I'm sure that everybody else would appreciate it too. So let's do it.
Let's do it. And then
and if you want to pause on the shot you were looking for, then yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that. Sounds good.
Yeah.
I'll quickly pause there.
Yeah.
So yeah, this shot, I wish this video player was better at scrubbing. But yeah, this animation here was done, I'm pretty sure exactly that whole last 20 minutes I was talking about. Create the scene in 3D. You've got camera move going right to left. Put a null inside the car for the character, put some nulls in the foreground for the other two characters on the left. We had the character designs. I think at the beginning it was just, like I said, sketches of the character. So you just had a sketch of a guy sat down, a sketch of her, and attach them to the null. I think at the beginning stages of putting this together, it would have all been like no color. There could have just been a cube where this car would have been. Like all the objects, like none of it potentially has to be modeled. But if you have that pre-planning of how you're going to do it, get the certain things laid out as soon as possible, like the camera moves, the positioning of certain things, then getting that together nice and quickly was like so helpful, because then we could have the 2D animators and character designers work on their part, me working on more of the 3D, and not much changed from the beginning. It was just updating an asset. So the sketch of the character sitting down we just dragged and dropped and replaced that in After Effects from a sketch file, like sketch, I mean just like a JPEG, PNG of him sat down, into the Swift file of some rough animation like I showed before, the sketchy outlines and just a fill color, and the animator would keep working and update that, and I would just have to update that within the After Effects file, but everything kind of just remains the same, and it just flows quite well. And
no, it's grand.
Yeah.
So quick question, and another quick question for you. This one's from me actually. So, and it's a difficult question this is going to be a difficult question to answer, but so roughly how long do you find yourself working on projects? Is there sort of a rough timescale you have? Are you sort of mainly on something for like 3 to 4 weeks, or is it a matter of months, or is it really just huge variability from?
Yeah, it can vary a lot. I'd say at least kind of like 4 or 5 weeks, but then it really depends. And this is working with, like, for this project, for example, working with a team. So it was a couple of character animators on the 2D side, and then mostly me on the 3D, but then towards the end, I had a couple of other people doing a bit of stuff as well. And you have multiple people working on stuff like this, and that can still take a couple of months. So yeah, it really does depend. But I'd say, like, with this project, for example, we worked quite efficiently and quickly, that things came together really fast. And then a lot of the kind of the time consuming thing is like 2D character animators, frame by frame animating, tying a rope, and then once that's done, it's then like coloring all the layers and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I get it. I mean, Reverb Mike, by the way, in the chat. Hi, Reverb Mike. Saying something I think we can all identify with, that every project takes longer than you think it would at the beginning. That's the thing. You look at it, think, oh yeah, I could have that done in a week, and then like 4 weeks later.
Yeah, especially how obsessive some of us can be. Like, I know sometimes I'm just like, I'm not going to obsess over the details, and then you see a detail and then you start obsessing and you think, why have I done it again? I don't need to do this. But then, yeah, once you start, you cannot stop.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's there has to be it's a thing that you get as you go along. It's that you learn to let go of certain things, and you have to really ask yourself, am I the only person who's noticing this?
Yeah.
Or, that's the thing, because it's tricky.
Yeah.
But but this is cool though. People, by the way, loving the opportunity to see the showreel again. So that can carry on if you like.
Yeah. Shall you just hit play?
Yeah, do it.
Cool. Let's
they're cute.
unmute it.
I love them.
These guys are great.
Yeah, they're brilliant.
They were a lot of fun.
Really good.
So montage.
And I think Tim is also going to pop your Instagram into the chat for everyone, so that they can catch up with what you're doing on there as well. And you've got the web address there too, which is really cool. And
if there is any like extra questions or anything that anyone thinks of afterwards, feel free to message me, and I'll do my best.
Yeah, nice
to answer questions.
Yeah, no, that's grand. No, it's gone down very well here, Mike. If anybody does have any questions they want to drop in right now, we've got, what do we got? Just about 10 minutes left of natural time, if you want. And also, everybody, it would be remiss of me not to mention the fact that we have our own Discord. Now, many of you, of course, know this, but not everyone. So you can come along and join in the chat on Discord, get involved there, which is really good. And I've got a question straight away from Tim. Any dream projects for you, Mikey? Is there something that you're like, oh, I really wish I could work on?
I do have like something I really love to do is work on more of a short film animation with like more narrative, or something, because I work on a lot of short stuff that could be like a few seconds long, or like 30 seconds long, and I'm one of my aims is to kind of build and expand upon that, and create something that tells a bit more of a story, or brings a bit more narrative, or a bit more character acting, or something like that. So I think that is my dream project, is just something that expands a bit more on some of the more simpler things I do.
Yeah, something to really get your teeth into, and like you say, work with a narrative. That's challenging.
Yeah, very challenging.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Gareth was asking earlier, by the way, about the sound. Who does the sound design for the 25K animation? He's just curious to know.
That was just little old me. I was I found, I want to say it was YouTube have a free music library.
They do.
So I think for the track, I can play a snippet. So yeah, that track was from that library, which is free to use and commercial.
Yeah. And you're not going to get any content contention on there, so that's
exactly.
good. Yeah.
And then all the other little sound effects were from freesounds.org, which is just a massive library of, I think people have uploaded them, so it's like user uploads, and there's just so much stuff on there. So sometimes you have to get creative with like your onomatopoeic words and think like, how would you describe this sound? How would someone have written the description of this like sound that I need? But it's just searching on there, and I usually will grab like 20 or 30, sometimes more, of these little sounds and just kind of place them in. So that was all done for this one, was just layering up loads and loads of little free, half a second little sound bites.
Yeah. I have a stack of collections of royalty-free sound effects and clips, but unfortunately iTunes has them grouped in. That's why I can never do a random play from iTunes, because 1 minute I'll be getting I don't know, insert name of artist here. The next minute it'll be horror scream from a corridor. Not relaxing.
I've definitely done that before. Yeah, you're just like random 1 second explosion out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly.
To wake you up.
Very disconcerting, but
yeah, that does happen.
Man. It does. The let's have a look. Let's just see. There's a couple of people mentioning other places to find sounds. Reverb Mike saying findsounds.com. That's very helpful. Cool. Nice thing to have. And Audition has a little Audition library which you can download. It's not installed with the product. You have to go to a web page on the Adobe website and get that. There's a whole bunch of different things in there, including loops, and there are all different beats and everything there you can use to assemble sounds. So over 10,000 sounds. Tim's just taking me to task about my use of the word little. Okay, there's a huge I've just got to resell that. There's a huge 10,000 sound library that's available for Audition, and lots of stuff, lots of bites from for our very own Jason Levine, of course, which is really, really good. Let's have a look. Just checking for questions now, just to see if we've got anything else coming out. It's really good. Let's have a quick look. I think we've addressed all of those things just there. And also sound effects inside of Rush as well, but I don't know if they can be extracted either. Sandrine, actually, that's a very, very interesting remark, and Kirsty now is rubbing it in and saying it's a huge 10,000 sound. Sorry, okay, everybody, it's really big.
What's bigger than huge?
Exactly, super massive, humongous. And Angus is asking, when will you be coming back to show us some more stuff? Are you going to come back and see us again?
Yeah, I'd love to, definitely. Whenever I'm asked, yeah. Definitely. We'll get that into the pipeline and see you again shortly. But I think pretty much we're good for today, right? Yeah, all good for me. I had one little bonus tip, if anyone if we had a couple more minutes, but of course, super quick. But I thought it's always good to know. I'll quickly just show what the bonus tip is. Sorry if that just blasted people's ears. I've got another one. Just one little tip about getting the 2D characters to fit in the 3D render was something that we've definitely used a lot. is like just adding little lighting effects to the 2D render. And sometimes this can be good, sometimes it's not necessary, but yeah, that's just like, it's one of those just little tips that someone, I think it was an animator called Clem Boyer, who's like really talented, who I used to work with, and I'm pretty sure he was the one who showed me this, and it's just like always useful. So I thought it could be a nice little bonus tip just to
for sure
to throw in at the end. The basic way of setting this up, and it may not show well on this character just because there's color or anything, but if you create duplicates of your render, you can create, shall I just solo this? You can mask it with itself. So you've got, it's masking to itself, so it kind of disappears. And then if you move the mask layer left or right, you get this little
nice
little
edge. I see. Yeah.
So you could
cute,
you could have that as rim highlight, and that's the mask. So I don't know, you could, there's already levels on there, so it doesn't do much until you start messing with the levels. So yeah, it's more apparent when you've got color information, but yeah, if you don't,
we can see it though. That is a nice tip. I like it.
And then you can also do the same for the other side, and then darken it instead. Which way is that? Yeah, then you got a little shadow, and then if you add a blur to the mask, just do a fast box blur.
To get like a nice bit of noise around the edges and soften it off. Yeah.
And you could add a noise, get a bit of texture in there, but just it's one of those things that it just becomes so useful. There's definitely limitations to it, but you know, it can just be super helpful just for that final like little touch.
It's really good,
especially if you have a light, like if you had a sun set up in the 3D that matches the direction here. It's just little bonus tip for the end. Why not?
Nice, love it. That was a really good tip. Went down really well as well. So fantastic. Well, thank you, Mikey. It's been really great spending this time with you. Hopefully we'll see you again.
Yeah, I hope so. It's been great.
It has, and good luck with all of the things that you're working on at the moment. I know you're super busy. So yeah, great stuff for that. Great for joining us, everybody. Been really good to see you. And don't forget, you can join us on Discord. You can of course watch this again if you need to later on demand. It's there and available. But for now, it's cheerio from myself and from Mikey, and we'll see you here on Friday live with Adobe. Take care. See you later.
Cheers, bye.